Ladies and gentlemen, as many of you know, the flu season has begun and COVID is still out here going strong. Many scientists are now wondering how the flu and COVID-19 mix will be this fall season. So, this is September 3rd, 2020, from NPR. I'm going to play this audio for you.
Plus COVID-19. Doctors around the world have seen some patients who tested positive for both influenza virus and the COVID-19 virus. At least a couple dozen or so cases have been reported. Not a lot when you consider that over 26 million people have been diagnosed with COVID-19. Still,
it is quite possible and likely that the two viruses could infect a patient at the same time, or for that matter, sequentially. 1 month, one virus, and the next month, the other virus.
Michael Mathey is a professor of medicine at the University of California, San Francisco. He says both viruses can cause dangerous inflammation in the lungs that can fill the air spaces with fluid, making it difficult to breathe.
It's likely with both viruses at the same time, the severity of respiratory failure would be greater, or of course having two illnesses in a row that affected the lungs would make the respiratory failure more severe.
The truth is, though, COVID-19 is so new, we just don't have the research to know for sure. Generally speaking, co-infections are common when it comes to respiratory diseases. Helen Chu is an associate professor of medicine at the University of Washington. In the past, she's checked sick folks with tests for 10 to 20 different viruses.
And we often find the presence of more than one virus at a time.
That doesn't necessarily mean there's actually more than one active infection.
You could be at the end of your illness, so you're no longer symptomatic from it, but you can still detect, non-viable virus.
Researchers have also looked to see if having more than one virus says anything about how sick you get. It can really vary depending on the viruses involved. Chu says it's unclear if rhinovirus, a common cold virus, can make a bout with flu worse.
But for a lot of the other viruses that are known causes of disease, like para-influenza virus, and human metapneumovirus, and human coronavirus, those can work with flu and cause you to have more severe disease.
Not everyone agrees on that, though. There's conflicting data out there, and some epidemiological research shows that respiratory viruses seem to compete with each other in a way that means one virus can suppress another. Tanya Mura is a virologist at the University of Idaho. She says when a new pandemic flu virus swept through in 2009,
it was delayed in certain populations that were having ongoing outbreaks of other respiratory viruses at the time.
All the recent social distancing does seem to have reduced the number of circulating respiratory viruses, but flu is still out there, and its symptoms are very similar to those of COVID-19. Sarah Meskill is an assistant professor in pediatrics and emergency medicine at Baylor College of Medicine.
Just because you test positive for the flu doesn't mean you don't have coronavirus. You should still be doing your social distancing and quarantining.
And of course, there is one way to avoid a possible double whammy of flu and COVID-19. Get your flu shot. The vaccine will protect you, and reducing flu cases will also help hospitals that are already struggling to cope with COVID-19. Nell Greenfield-Boyce, NPR News.
Okay, so now they're saying it is possible for you to get both COVID and flu at the same time. Wow. I mean, you don't really think about these things, but we are in that season. So we are in the beginning of the influenza virus season, and it's interacting with both, the COVID and, we also have the common cold, which is also another thing that people have in a high number during this time of the year, all the way through the winter. So they're saying both viruses can cause dangerous inflammation of the lungs that can fill the air spaces with fluid, making it difficult to breathe, he notes. And I wonder if it amplifies some of the other symptoms that are associated with the flu. If you have both, I'm sure it would. This is new. I mean, even the scientists don't know. They are saying this is going to be an interesting season to see what's going to happen because they don't know. They're still learning about COVID-19. So, ladies and gentlemen, some epidemiologists research shows that respiratory viruses can compete with each other in a way that means one virus can suppress the spread of another. And they said influenza is really a good example of that, but I don't know if influenza can really suppress COVID. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you think it can? So they're saying a good example of influenza in some cases where they've seen the flu will suppress another type of virus that's in somebody's system. So they have done work on lab animals, and it showed that getting mild respiratory viruses can seem to offer some protection against getting a different one or a more severe one in a couple of days, a couple of days later. In the southern hemisphere, where the flu season is just coming to an end, doctors saw very little flu at all this year, probably mostly because of travel restrictions and wearing of the mask and social distancing. Well, I don't know if that's going to be true in America, because in America, you got a high number of people that refuse to wear masks and refuse to social distance. So I don't know if that would be the case here. And some researchers are getting ready to look at people who have mostly recovered from the flu and then get COVID-19. It is going to make it worse. It is going to limit the virus or the transmission. So they're just wondering these things. We shall see, y'all. Well, we don't have a choice but to live through it and see what's going to happen. And I can see this happening, especially to children, because with them back in school, the exposure is going to be bad. I remember one year when I think I was in junior high school at the time, and we had a flu outbreak in the school. And I think in one day, 137 students called out sick. And that was the one time I wasn't sick. I didn't get sick that year with the flu. But yeah, it was like over 137 students that had called out with the flu all around the same time. And it was really bad. And when you're in those closed in hallways and classrooms and everything, it is easy to spread stuff around. I can't tell you how many times, even elementary school all the way through high school, if I had a friend that got sick with a cold, I always got the cold from them. Always. So we shall see what happens this season with two viruses going on at the same time. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.